This meeting is being recorded by the
And right now, we're
Wholesale
going to turn things
Participant.
over to our Northeast Regional Director, Miss Thelma Williams. She has been instrumental in organizing these events from day one. So Thelma, without further ado, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, David. Welcome and happiest holidays to all. Before we go any further today in the program, I just want to give the talented Mr. Claude Fournier a warm virtual applause for rendering those beautiful musical melodies. Thank you, Claude. So without further ado, allow me to introduce myself again. I'm the proud Northeast Regional Director, also known as Region 3 at the Mass Commission for the Blind. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. It's wonderful to see so many familiar faces and great to see new faces as well. On behalf of MCB and its regional advisory councils, which is comprised of consumers and parents of children who are visually impaired, as well as our partners from the disability community and employers, welcome to our third annual statewide virtual open house. Today, we are here to celebrate International Day of People with Disabilities. Our theme this year is Self-Advocacy, Stay Strong. In 2020, during the peak of the pandemic, I had a vision of bringing a community of people together who were experiencing significant, unprecedented disruptions in our everyday lives. I wanted to do something that would dry the constant flow of tears, diminish the sense of fear and hopelessness. I needed to create a space where the disability community, my colleagues and friends could come together in a safe environment, encourage each other, and celebrate our resiliency. I wanted this event, now known as the Open House, to be entertaining, educational, engaging, but most importantly, give us a sense of hope. Give us a sense of hope and a glimpse of normalcy as it once was, if only for 2 or 3 hours. My friends, we are here 2 years and 3 open houses later, staying strong and carrying on. In summary, I encourage each of you to keep your eye on the prize, stay strong, and remember self-advocacy and resourcefulness equal self-empowerment. So I want you to do me a favor now. Go grab your favorite morning beverage, relax, and enjoy. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Thelma. Hello and good morning to all. I'm Jay Rufo. I'm Director of MCB's Metro West region, and I'll be co-moderating with Mike Ciccone and others today. To offer welcoming remarks this morning, I'd like to introduce MCB's Commissioner. Legally blind from a young age, David Darkangelo currently serves as the Commissioner of the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. Previously, he served as Director of the Massachusetts Office on Disability. He has served on the Board of Directors for the Arc of Middlesex East, Resource Partnership, and Tailored for Success. David is a graduate of Suffolk University, and he lives in Malden with his wife, Lisa, and their daughter. Commissioner, good morning and welcome.
Jay, thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. This is a great turnout again. So I want to first thank our committee led by Thelma and Jay and Mike and all of our team that helped put this together. All of our guest speakers today and participants, thank you for taking part here today, and really our community for joining us here today. Self-advocacy is bedrock to what we're trying to do at MCB, really to improve access to opportunities through independence and self-determination. So really, our team does a great job of sitting down with our consumers in their homes, in the community, whether it's at their kitchen table or at a Starbucks, whatever the case may be, really trying to get people to accept their blindness and then be able to move on from there to, if they're working age, hopefully become employed or be on that path, because we really believe that employment helps improve that independence and self-determination. And again, self-advocacy is a bedrock part of that. So as we celebrate International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Near and dear to my heart as a person with a disability. My daughter has a significant disability. So I know what it's like to advocate for myself, and whether you're the commissioner or an advocate or volunteer and everybody in between, we all have to advocate for ourselves. Just know that MCB and our team are there on your side to advocate for you as well, to give you the confidence so that you can do it. We believe in you. Becoming blind is challenging. I've lost my vision and had it restored and still legally blind, so I understand what it's like. And we're all in various states of ability. So I encourage you, if you haven't received MCB services recently, to reach out to your counselor and see how we can get those services flowing for you. Again, to advocate for you and to make sure that we're putting you on the path to prosperity. So thank you again for everybody who's participating. Self-advocacy, again, is paramount to me. Please let me know how MCB can be of service to you. Our team is always there. We're just a phone call away, or find us online, whatever the case may be. So I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm looking forward to taking part a little bit later with the presentation as well. So I'll see you in a little bit.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. So to kick things off this morning, our first presenter is Larry Raymond. Larry is the president of the Memorial Foundation for the Blind in Worcester. He's also the chair of MCB's Region 2 Regional Advisory Council. He'll deliver his remarks and to discuss the importance of self-advocacy. We collectively welcome Mr. Larry Raymond.
All right, we may be having some technical difficulties with Larry, but we will continue on and we'll get back to Larry if we can. Right now, we are going to ask for some audience participation. So throughout today's event, we've got several different questions about self-advocacy scattered throughout this program. So it's time to test your knowledge with the first two poll questions. So these questions and the accompanying answers, they're going to be displayed on the screen. We will also read them, and we'd like you to cast your vote via Zoom as to what you think the correct answer should be. So we've got two questions. They're both going to show up on your screen, so you can vote for them both at once. The first question here is, what is self-advocacy? So we've got 4 options. Option A, the process of yelling at people who are not helping you. Option B, the process of speaking up for oneself to address needs in a situation. Option C, the process of walking away from people that won't help. Or option D, the process of getting angry because you feel you are not being helped. And then we have question number 2. What are some things to know before you start trying to advocate for yourself? Option A here is know your opponent's weaknesses and behaviors. Option B, know how to make others angry and uncomfortable. Option C, know your rights and have respect for others and yourself. And option D, know your limitations and when you cannot win. So we see you got a lot of people already voting here. We'll let you all continue to vote. See those votes coming in.
Mike, this is Larry.
Hi, Larry.
I'm sorry, I must have been muted.
No worries at all. Let's wrap up this poll question and we can get right back to you.
Thank you.
So we'll give it a few more minutes here. I see at least half of you have voted so far. So again, question 1, what is self-advocacy? Question 2, what are some things to know before you start trying to advocate for yourself? Alrighty, we've already got dozens of votes cast here. give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll end the poll and take a look at the results.
Oh, hello, David.
All righty, we will, the poll has been up for 2 minutes now. We can end the poll and take a look at the results. So we get a smart group with us today. Question number 1 was, what is self-advocacy? And 95% of you were correct. The process of speaking up for oneself to address needs in a situation. And number 2, again, the correct answer here with 96% of the vote is option C. Know what your rights are and how to have respect for others and yourself, because this will translate well when you do self-advocate. So for right now, we can wrap up the poll section, and let's get back to Larry Raymond, who, as Jay mentioned, he is the president of the Memorial Foundation for the Blind in Worcester and also the chair of MCB's Region 2 Central Massachusetts Regional Advisory Council. So Larry, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I apologize for being muted for a while. Thank you. This is a nice opportunity for all of us to come together and discuss self-advocacy, which is an incredibly important skill for all of us to have. So I'm going to start by going back to the early 70s. I left New Hampshire to go to college in Worcester at Assumption College. Of course, this is prior to any divisions of disability in the colleges and prior to special ed. So one of the first things I had to do was to advocate for myself to get my books from the professors. I needed to know what textbooks they were going to offer in the next semester so I could order them from the Recordings for the Blind. My first year when I went in there, I didn't get my books until probably October or November. And I learned quickly that I had to contact professors in the prior semester to find out what edition they were going to have in their textbooks in order to make sure that the books that I needed to study would be available to me. And fortunately, that worked quite well. And I went on to graduate. And then I was fortunate enough to become the director of the City of Worcester's Office on Disability in the 80s. And toward the end of the 80s, the City of Worcester did not have audible signaling devices. And I went to the traffic engineer and to the city administration and talked about the importance of having these audible signaling devices. The Mass Commission for the Blind's Worcester office was down on Main Street. There were a number of people with vision loss at that office, and there were some interesting intersections that I thought would benefit from audible signaling devices. I, of course, was told first that we did not have the funds to provide those kinds of audible signaling devices, but I was vigilant and I found alternative funding. So we were able to put in, I think, 10 different intersections in the downtown area with audible signaling devices. And after that, the city embraced that idea. And now, over the last 30 years, we have many intersections throughout the city that have these devices. It was really important to work with the Commission on Disability, now called the Commission on Accessibility in Worcester, to get that kind of advocacy to the administration and the budget office to make sure those kinds of funding were going to be available. The next one was just 10 years ago when I and my wife got custody of our 3 oldest grandchildren. And they, 2 of them had disabilities. One was on the spectrum and the other one had intellectual disabilities. And going to the IEP meetings and talking to the teachers and things like that, there was a lot of written information that they were providing to my wife. And I, of course, wanted that in accessible format. And they were a little hesitant, not in the beginning, because they didn't know really how to do that. But because of the accessibility these days of Word documents and having a screen reader and an iPhone, they started providing me with all the information, the documents around access to the different programs and the IEPs. And I felt like I was then able to advocate for my grandchildren to get the services that they needed in an appropriate way. I do want to say, in wrapping up, to stay strong. There are going to be many, many times when we are going to be told that, oh, I'm sorry, we just don't have the funding to do that at this point. Or I'm sorry, our case managers are overwhelmed with the amount of clients that they have. And we need to be vigilant and stay strong and keep advocating for what we need or what our community needs. And this includes whether you're talking to federal legislators or city hall or your town halls, work with your commissions on disability to get these kinds of policies in place so that we have access. It also includes the Mass Commission for the Blind. We've had a difficult few years with COVID, and we've had some difficulties in staffing. We need to stay vigilant and make sure that the legislator funds us appropriately so that we have enough vocational counselors and enough social workers and enough O&M people to make sure that all our needs are met. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, and I wish you all the best in holiday greetings.
Thank you very much, Larry, and thanks for being with us today. And continuing on the theme of self-advocacy, we do have several individuals from our community who are going to be providing self-advocacy testimonials. So the prompt that we had given them was self-advocacy is defined as the action of representing oneself or one's views or interests. Self-advocacy is supported through choice-making, problem-solving, goal-setting, and attainment, and asking for help when needed. So our first testimonial is a video that we have here, and it's from one of our consumers, Desiree Eusebio. She shares her inspiring story of losing her vision, rallying herself to face her future, and using MCB resources to consider a new future as an entrepreneur. So together, Desiree is finding a new path, following a dream and vision she never imagined before.
I lost my sight about 5.5 years ago when I was 16 years old. I was a victim of gun violence. The doctors had let me know that recovering sight wasn't possible because of where the injury had occurred. I had to just accept then and there in that moment that I was completely blind. It felt just extremely scary. I knew that everything was going to be different. I can't go back to school. I don't feel like I can play any more sports. I also even felt like I was never going to be able to use a phone again, and I just felt like my life was kind of over. I've always been somebody who's very determined, and I'm grateful to be alive. Just coming to that realization, it caused me to just say, you know what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go forward, and even if it's hard, I'm gonna push. MCB was in touch with me from the beginning. Kara as well, being my case manager, she definitely was so understanding and really helped me through a lot. I was grateful to have somebody through MCB who understood blindness, understood what resources and everything that I needed to even survive and live this life efficiently, and sometimes I'd have difficulty finding or signing up for certain things, and she definitely helped me with learning about different resources and like apps and different things I never knew that I could do as a blind person. They helped me get connected to the Adult Learning Center in Lawrence and getting all the tools I needed to start and be in the classroom, whether it was a talking calculator or a tactile map. And so it wasn't too overwhelming because of that. I got my own place after I finished school, and I am working into getting into classes for the entrepreneur program. It's through community teamwork, and they're a program where they help set you up with starting your own business, getting connected with a mentor, learning just the basics of what to know on marketing and sales and your brand, and learning who do I need to get connected with? How can I get like a graphic designer or an artist, someone who can bring the ideas I have in my head to life? From there, just see the success come from it. That's where I'm headed, just better, stronger, more independent. I've actually become better now than I ever was before, emotionally and mentally. Since losing my sight, I feel like I can actually see now more than I ever could before.
Well, thanks to Desiree for that powerful story. Next, to provide valued insights into the importance of self-advocacy is MCB's own Michelle Murray. Michelle is the administrative assistant for the Northeast region at the Commission for the Blind. She started with the Commonwealth in 1994 as a clerk for Ferguson Industries for the Blind, which was the workshop of MCB. Throughout her tenure at MCB, she's worked in several roles, including HR, central registry, and finance. Michelle, welcome, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Jay. My son Joey was born with microcephaly, a neonatal malformation due to a chromosome deletion, which causes developmental delays as well as chronic behavioral issues. He is non-speaking and has seizures. At the age of 6, Joey was diagnosed with autism after he began hitting his head on the floor. Because Joey is unable to self-advocate, I had to advocate for him from birth. He is now 20 years old. The challenges of being a single parent with a medically involved child are never ending. Having a child with disabilities, you may find yourself battling with school districts for services or with their medical team for services the child is entitled to as a human being. For example, Joey's elementary school did not have the resources to accommodate his specific needs. He was placed in a classroom with 16 other students. I frequently received calls from the school to pick him up every time he had a disruptive classroom incident. Having to leave work frequently is very stressful and could have potentially put my job at risk. I eventually had to advocate to get Joey in an appropriate school program with skilled personnel. Many of the programs were private, extremely expensive, and out of his school district. This is one of the biggest challenges among families of children with disabilities. It took me years to get my son into the right school. The longer families battle with the public school system, the more their child suffers from disruption and lack of resources. Presently, I am advocating for a new doctor as Joey has aged out of Children's Hospital and will graduate in January of 2023. Moreover, there are long wait lists for trained specialists available to address his medical condition. The wait lists are due to COVID and shortage of qualified personnel. Advocating for your child is not a one-time thing. If your child has a chronic condition, you will probably spend a lifetime advocating for their rights to ensure their needs are being met. Parents are natural advocates for our children. We know our children better than anyone else. So when you find that you or someone else's needs are not being met, stay strong, and if possible, support them to self-advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your story of advocacy with us. Next, we're going to go to a video of Mary and Jaden Nogueras. They live on Cape Cod and are raising awareness about blindness and more specifically, the white cane law. Jaden, a high school student, is legally blind and uses a white cane. After Jaden was honked at for not crossing the street fast enough, the Nogueras family started holding events in their community and using social media to make the streets safer for people who are blind and visually impaired. So right now we're going to show you a clip of their advocacy.
Well, basically, you need to look out for a white cane.
15-year-old Jaden and his family are raising awareness after the high school junior who is legally blind says drivers honked at him and swore at him because he was taking too long to cross the street.
This came back from my market, crossing my street, onset shop, and most people didn't sue around and just constantly say what it's wanting. I think most times I just froze.
He has had some difficult times where some drivers have honked at him, have told him to hurry up, and it affected his self-esteem.
These incidents prompted Jaden's mom, Mary, to spread the word about the white cane law, which states all motorists, whenever they see a pedestrian who uses a dog guide or a white cane at a street crossing, must come to a complete stop. The person with the white cane or guide dog always has the right of way.
We just tried to talk with community members, service providers, and I was just shocked that there's so many people who do not know what the white cane is and the laws around white cane when it comes to driving. So it is a really important mission for myself and my husband to talk about it with people so our son is safe.
I just need to take my time across the street. I take my time. Just have patience for people.
And as Jaden gets older, he's trying to find his independence. But as a mom, Mary worries for his safety.
We just like to talk about the white cane and white cane safety with everybody and anybody we come across, because I believe that the more people who know about the white cane and the more people who know about Jaden and people like him, the safer he will be.
All right, well, thank you for providing us with that story, Allie, much appreciated. So rounding out this portion of self-advocacy testimonials is Kinski Dua. Mr. Dua was born in Ghana, West Africa. He later traveled to France before finally moving to the United States in 1980. He's held various jobs until his disability in 2007. Kinski, the floor is yours, and thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Rufo. And good morning, fellow participants, ladies and gentlemen. As I have been introduced by Mr. Rufo, I am indeed Kinski Dua, and I've been privileged with the honor to offer or make a few remarks on self-advocacy due to a disability. But please permit me to also introduce myself again to you as Kinski Dua, now a US citizen by way of Ghana, West Africa. I'm also a ripe, young, and dynamic, exciting, a 68-year-old single man with vision or visual impairment as a result of being diagnosed with the glaucoma affliction. Well, it's one thing, and when an individual is born with a disability, it's also a totally different ball game when one gets afflicted with a disability during an adolescence or the full adult years. And I guess that's when the importance of self-advocacy becomes crucially imperative. And why do I say that? It is precisely because that requires a new set of principles and perspectives that require also a call to self-discipline and self-motivation. It is not always easy, but quite frankly, you become dependent on your own self-advocacy, in the sense that you have to accept and face the new challenges of this life, which prior you may have taken for granted or not foreseen that is gonna happen to you. So in my short conclusion of self-advocacy, it is a measure of a personal reevaluation, as it is also an adjustment to new dimensions of realities that confront a person, and which might come as a result of that disability in one's life. It does come as a curveball in adventure of existence. However, we must boldly embrace it without any reservations and make the most of the situation, because guess what? Nature has already endowed each and every one of us with all the prerequisites which these adverse hurdles may demand of us. It is in our genes already. After all, and quite frankly, after all, and quite fortunately, we are also blessed with this great and amazing institutional agency that we know as the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind, as a reservoir of incredible support system with its tremendously dedicated staff who are ever ready with open and welcoming arms in giving us the necessary assistance that one could possibly hope for, and reshaping our lives as reasonably as possible. I personally have benefited, just as several other countless number of consumers also have benefited in diverse ways from the Commission in assistance, ranging from equipment to other various sorts of sound professional counsel, as well as bright training programs right here in the Commission. Mr. Rufo used to be my director for a program that we once had known as The Voice, Vocational Opportunities in Communications, which happened at, and when the office used to be on Boylston Street before they moved to Washington Street. The other equally important programs that I was sent to undertake in Buffalo, New York, which was a hospitality program for almost a period of 3 months, I believe. And then coming back to Boston, also being sent to the Carroll Center for the Blind right here in Newton, Massachusetts, for other technical programs and learning facilities. So in a nutshell, it is very imperative that we dedicate ourselves to this reality that we can self-advocate for ourselves and take new steps to make a positive changes in our lives. And nobody can do it for us. But however, we do have this incredible agency, Massachusetts Commission for the Blind, who is there and will welcome us with open arms, as I've said, with its dedicated staff, and make life reasonable for all of us. So with this incredible agency, they will give us all the necessary support that we need, and with them in our back, we are in solid welcoming hands, and for that reason, we cannot fail. Thank you so very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and your patience to listening to my advocacy.
Thank you very much, Kinski, for being with us, and for those who provided testimonials, Michelle, Desiree, Mary, and Jaden. We do have more testimonials to share later in this program, but right now we are going to welcome back Claude Fournier, our musician. I see, Claude, that you are muted there. If you just wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. As I introduce you here, Claude has been an MCB consumer for most of his life. He's a musician from Salem. He holds music degrees from the Lungy School of Music of Bard College and Emerson College. He teaches both piano and accordion lessons to people of all ages. And we do encourage you to check out his Facebook page, where he's always posting performances and videos of himself playing, and that is Claude Cafe, where you can also connect with him there. And right now he is going to play Someone to Watch Over Me by Gershwin for us. So Claude, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Everything. Here you go.
Always impressed by your work, Claude. Thank you again for being with us here today. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Right now, we are going to turn things to our panel discussion, and that is going to be moderated by Mr. Harry Duchesne. And Harry is the Executive Director for Audio Journal in Worcester. Audio Journal is part of the Massachusetts Audio Information Network, a nonprofit radio reading service for people who are blind and visually and print impaired in Massachusetts. Harry's background includes many years of teaching and leadership experience. And as a person who lives with a vision impairment himself, Harry is uniquely tuned into the needs of Audio Journal listeners. So Harry, thank you so much for being with us today, and welcome.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. And I too want to thank all of those, their testimonials. I'm humbled and inspired by their messages, especially the message to stay strong. It means a lot. Thank you so much. And even to Claude, your music is a testimonial. Thank you. So we're going to try and lead a relaxed and open discussion today with several questions, but I'd first like to introduce our wonderful panelist. First up is Stuart Flom. Stuart is the founder and president of Adaptivision, which specializes in finding technology solutions for clients who are blind or who have low vision. Stuart teaches his clients how to use technology to achieve greater independence. Prior to his work in lighting, he was a special education teacher. Stuart, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Our next panelist is Mary Otiato. I hope I said your last name right, Mary. Mary is the Director of Community Supports and Operations for the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission. Mary joined the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in 2007 and has also worked for the Commission for the Blind and the Department of Transitional Assistance. Born in Kenya, she holds a bachelor's degree in accounting from Philadelphia University and a master's in business administration in social policy management from Brandeis University. Mary, welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
And next up is Bill Porter. Bill Porter is a learning technology designer and an adjunct professor at Lesley Art and Design. Since formally being diagnosed as legally blind in 2018, he has used his platform as a visual artist and educator to dispel stereotypes about the assumed limitations of people who are blind and visually impaired. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Next is William Sanabria. William is a community support specialist at Northeast Independent Living Program. William works with community partners to connect clients to resources, including housing information, transportation services, and health insurance. He educates his clients on their benefits so they can make informed decisions and live independently in their community of choice. William, thanks for being with us.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me.
And finally, Lori Worrell is the manager of the Low Vision Peer Support Groups program at Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Lori brings 30 years of experience to the long-standing partnership between MCB and MAVI, the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, which is dedicated to providing information and camaraderie to people ages 55 and older who are losing their sight. Today, 35 peer-led groups throughout the state warmly welcome new members to explore tips and strategies to maintain confidence and independence. Lori, welcome.
Thanks so much, Harry.
And for those of us who are joining today, just a little before I ask the questions, they're going to be a question on resources, change in policy, skills needed for self-advocacy, and we also have one consumer submitted question today. So my panelists, are you ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's, as Mike suggested, I'll ask the questions and we'll let our answers breathe. No reason to rush. So first up, self-advocacy is the ability to articulate one's needs and make informed decisions about the support necessary to meet those needs. Please briefly share the resources and capacity your organization has to effectively promote self-advocacy to your clientele, leading to self-sufficiency. Anyone want to go first?
Sure, I'd be happy to go first.
Okay.
So I'm Stuart Flom, and first of all, I want to just thank everyone for this meeting, because when we talk about self-advocacy and independence, we need to be very careful that we're not talking about isolation. Being part of a community is so empowering to be able to advocate for one's needs. And just doing this, even if it's virtual, it's just so important because we learn so much from everyone. And I was so blessed to hear people's testimonials this morning. It's just so empowering.
Right.
As a business owner, I'm in a position of creating opportunity for people to speak up about their needs and making that a priority. Part of this involves maintaining an ongoing dialogue with customers through multiple communication channels. When we evaluate a client, we want to ask a series of questions to help people better understand their needs. Some of these things include assessing one's own needs to be able to advocate clearly for what you want. And I've talked to many people and asked them, what are your goals? And they say, I don't know. So understanding what your goals are so critical, and also understanding what the obstacles are very important. Being able to reach out to agencies that can help you. The Mass Commission for the Blind is obviously so important. Other places like the Carroll Center, if someone's a vet, the VA, low vision eye doctors, family, you need to create that community and understand what those resources are to help you advocate better for your needs. And then funding, going Lions Clubs, establishing a GoFundMe fund to help with purchasing a device. Larry's here, the Memorial Foundation, Association of Blind Citizens. So there's lots of agencies that want to help. So being aware of the network of people and agencies that can help is just so critical in being able to advocate. Other related items would be advocating if you're working at a business, talking to those people that can be helpful on your business. And when you're advocating, sometimes you need to be very bold and strong, but try not to beat people over the head, because it's all about relationships. And very often when you're advocating, it's an educational thing, in that sometimes people are just clueless as to what your needs are, and just trying to educate them first. So start soft, start compassionate. If you get nowhere, sometimes you have to ramp it up a bit, but always try to create a relationship with those people that you're trying to advocate with. Some of the existing resources that we offer are training and customer support. We speak at low vision support groups, and Lori can address this much better than I can, but low vision support groups can be so empowering as you find out some of the needs and some of the ways that people have advocated for themselves. When it comes to vision, I have a background in lighting, and very often lighting is one of the most overlooked areas for a person with low vision. And so learning how to talk to people that have make decisions in public facilities or retirement communities, just letting them know how important lighting is can go a long way. We use public platforms to share stories and examples of self-advocacy. I've learned so much from hearing the stories of other people and how they've overcome obstacles to be successful. One person that we do feature case studies in a blog series that we do on Facebook and also on our website. And one person that really stands out, his name is Tom Pay. Tom was an investment banker, and he became totally blind, got very depressed, as many people do. And he reached a point where he said, I can't stay here. I need to do something. I'm smart. I want to develop an app. And he did an app called Waymap, which enables people that are totally blind and low vision to travel more freely. What Tom states is that the average blind person essentially has 2.5 routes that they take, and he wanted to expand that substantially. Another person that we highlighted, her name is Jacqueline Pope, and she had a similar situation in that she was on a certain path to become an environmental engineer, but she lost a good portion of her vision, got very depressed, but then decided she wanted to change her path and also do apps to help people that are visually impaired. And we also highlight news stories showing people's accomplishments as well as developments in assistive technology that can benefit the community. But that stay engaged with other people, I think that's just so important in terms of being a better advocate for technology.
Well, Stuart, thank you for those words of wisdom. You're right. All that advice is wonderful. Our panelists, any others want to jump in and answer the question about resources?
All right, this is Mary Otiato, and I'm happy to jump in. Thank you, Stuart, for taking one for the team and being the first one to go. Well, when we talk about resources, it's different with state agencies. As you know, we have different funding sources. So what somebody may have and is not necessarily what you're going to have, but self-advocacy is important no matter what. At the Mass Rehab Commission, we have MRC Connect. So this is an integrated eligibility system. When you come in, you fill out an application, and what happens is there's an integrated eligibility way of looking at that application to make sure that we are providing you the services that you are qualified for or you are eligible for. So you may come in looking for vocational rehabilitation services. And then in the course of looking at the application, we will see that you also have a brain injury, and we have a statewide brain injury program. So we'll be able to send you in that program as well. So you can be dual eligible in different programs. So, and that is that's one way that the agency is advocating for the person coming in. But once you are already in the system, we have the Office of Individual and Family Engagement, which has peer mentors. These are individuals who have lived experience, who can give you some intel on what has worked for them. This is really important because they know where the skeletons are. They know which agencies will answer your calls and which ones will let you languish on the on voicemail for forever. And so by interacting with these individuals, they will let you know what and where to go and what to go for. Sometimes when you go to an agency, you don't even know what you're eligible for. You don't know what is possible. And so having these peer mentors is great. We also have disability inclusion leaders, which are also in the Office of Individual and Family Engagement. And what these individuals do, they also do have lived experience. And they advocate on the large part where they are at the table, where the decisions are being made. When we're hiring somebody, do we have, what's the accessibility? What are we talking about? Are we going to wait to have that person come in before we start thinking about accessibility? And then the person's going to come, and 6 months later, they don't even have a desk because we don't have enough egress for a wheelchair to go through. So those are some of the few things that we do as an agency. And we try to get you, to get the individual to advocate for themselves. We also have partner with the independent living centers, which, as many of you know, they are community-based disability advocacy organizations. So they really do have wonderful resources and information on being on self-advocacy. At the same time, we also collaborate with the Brain Injury Association of Massachusetts for some of our individuals who have brain injury. And they do have support groups, which are really important because you get to learn other people's experiences and what they have been able to do, and you get strength from there on being able to advocate for yourself. They also provide training for staff so that when if they are meeting with consumers, they are able to impact that the art of self-advocacy at the get-go as we go along. So I just wanted to share some of those, and I will leave some information so that if anybody has any information, any questions, they can always email me. And I also want to state that, yes, when we talk more about MCB, we're talking about low vision and legal blindness. And being at MCB, I learned that blindness is a continuum. So we have individuals on both ends. We have a middle path, and these individuals are served by the Mass Rehab Commission. So I just want to let you know that we do serve individuals who have low vision. And so some of this information is very relevant that I am learning today and I'm hearing today from you. So thank you.
Yeah, Mary, thank you. You're right. I believe we're all learning from each other today. Thank you for those great resources. Bill, William, or Lori, would you like to add to that?
I'll jump in. The group that I guess I'd be representing today is that I'm really advocating with is the Disability Advocacy and Education Group at Lesley University. And we've been around for a year. It's a group that I had started and I co-chair currently. And we created the group just because there was a gap there where, in university structures, there's a lot of, the beautiful thing about being a university is a lot of support. There's a lot of opportunity and resources typically for various things. And for students, certainly there's a lot of staff that's there to support students' needs with accommodations and things like that in the classroom, because they're our customers. But for employees, faculty and staff, there really isn't much in the university world, and it's actually a very ableist culture, which is a challenge for us. So, a lot of people that I know that are co-employees at this institution and others tend to hide their disability and not ask for accommodations and not self-advocate just out of discomfort and fear. So part of this group that we created was, actually the story of it, honestly, it's tied to this group here, was David D'Arcangelo came as a guest speaker at Lesley, was invited as part of our Thought Leadership series back in October of 21. And his speech was really focused on, supporting employees with disabilities. And, part of what I took away from the speech was do one more thing. What can you do? What can your institution do? And so I followed up with that saying, Lesley, what are you going to do? Did you hear the challenge? What can we do? I'm an employee. I've been there for many years. I've been there 11 years at this point. And I didn't see what I felt like there's more that we could do. And so they said, why don't you start a group? So, it was putting it back on me, but I saw that was an opportunity to have a voice in the direction we could do. And luckily, we also have an office on equity, inclusion, and justice, and other support groups like the Lesley Diversity Council that exists already. So they immediately became partners and supported us in getting going. And through that, we became what's called an employee resource groups. We actually have funding and things like that. And so we're still trying to figure out our footing. But what a lot of we're doing is education, having panel discussions where people from the community that are willing to talk, share their stories about being in higher ed and the challenges they've had. And through that, we've gotten other people to come forward and talk about their concerns and really just take over that hurdle, actually going to HR and saying they need something. They've been there 20 years and never asked for something because of fear. So we're trying to change the culture the best we can. And we're trying to do it through education rather than, as has been mentioned already, like you want to go with a kind, respectful approach rather than saying demanding and things like that. But, the reality is there's a lot of diversity and equity discussion going on, particularly, certainly in the university. Universities, I'm part of other groups and organizations that do talk about a lot of the things we're dealing with other marginalized communities, right, in higher ed. But a lot of times, when it comes to disability, that's just not part of the discussion. So we're just trying to make sure that is part of the discussion. So we're working on resources there, but we have luckily individuals that are assigned to that. We just need to make sure that they're helping do that. And, for example, this week we had a student brought a concern to us about elevator issues that was keeping them from getting to their ceramics classroom. And it's been going on for months and not being addressed. So we pulled all our resources and pushing all the people at the university, pulled them all together as part of the meeting and said, what can we do? And tried to get it addressed faster. So it helps to have that kind of support because I myself, I've been there a long time. It took me years before I felt comfortable advocating for myself. So I think having a support system really helps.
Sure. Well, Bill, thanks for stepping up in the higher ed world. It's important. We need
My
it.
pleasure. Yeah. No, I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah. William or Lori, do you have anything to contribute before we move on to our next question?
Sure. This is William. Hello, everyone. So I've been working at Northeast Independent Living Program for over 11 years. I lost my sight at age 32. And a good feature of the IL centers is that we have an out-of-the-box mentality where we connect people to resources in the community. We have, in-house programs, personal care attendants, services for consumers, youth services, and recovery learning community, and transitions where I belong. I'm a community support specialist. And one of the best features is peer support. The reason that is so successful is that you can learn a lot. We all learn. We never stop learning as human beings, right? So as someone who's new to this, environment, you have a disability or you just don't know, or may not even know the challenges. Being connected with someone to provide that peer support who has that lived experience, it'll serve to, reconstruct the person and build confidence where they can then, learn those skills and approaches on how to best communicate so they can advocate for themselves. Because at the end of the day, if that person succeeds, we all succeed, right? And I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, thank you, William. Lori, wanted to give you a chance before we go to the next question.
All right, thanks so much, Harry. I will make this brief. There are three things in particular that I do want to mention. First of all, and this is not really one of them, I do believe that knowledge is power, and to educate is to empower. So all of these platforms where people are able to learn about services, that is just so ideal. And in Massachusetts, this is where you want to live. If you are blind or visually impaired, this is where you want to live. So the support groups program, since most of the groups do meet in senior centers, these have been perfect built-in platforms and classrooms for representatives from all the agencies in Massachusetts, so many agencies serving people with disabilities and blind and visually impaired. So for them to be able to come to this classroom to present their information and to make the connection with all of the members has been just wonderful. I've been in this program, as the bio says, for 30 years, and I've just seen so many incredible things. I want to mention three things. These are the three things I wanted to mention. So recently we had a very important election, and some of the groups that were meeting in person, because we have to get back to pre-COVID, we're not all back there yet, but during election years, some of the groups do have town officials bring the accessible voting machines to demonstrate and train the members so that they feel proficient when they go to the polls to actually use these by themselves. And I'll tell you, the first time that I ever did this and handed that ballot to the poll worker, I think I felt, I was older. I was maybe in my 40s or older. And I felt like, wow, I'm really an American exercising my right to vote. And it was just such a wonderful feeling, and there's nothing like it. So that was wonderful to be able to offer to people. And also, we do have an extensive list of guest speakers that we provide for our coordinators. And one of them was Michelle Alex from the Registry of Motor Vehicles. She's the outreach and community coordinator, and she visits the groups often to talk about the handicap placard and the plates, and recently the Real ID, because that's coming up. The deadline for that is fast approaching. But before the Real ID talk, she came to Gloucester, and we were talking about mass IDs and how important it was to have an ID, and people not having a mass ID because nobody's driving. were not able to cash checks. They weren't able to get their medications. And she arranged for an outing to go to the local RMV. You know, that's challenging. There were probably 6 or 7 of us. She took us right to the beginning of the line. We were in and out of there within probably 20 minutes, and we all had our new mass IDs. Well, they were in the mail. They would be sent to us. This was something that would not have been able to happen if she had not been one of our guest speakers. In that regard, I'd like to say that I think it's just so important to know the people. Well, no, I want to say one more before I say this. And this is important to me to say. Stu Flom, who has also been one of my best guest speakers through almost 30 years, taking us through the technology from the mid-90s to today with all the advanced technology, has never shown up as a salesman. He's always appeared as an educator and a trainer. He's provided hands-on experience so that people can make their own decisions about what technology they need, what technology they want. And thank you, Stu, for that. And I will say that it's an important thing to know who the agencies are, who are here to serve all of us, to know the people who want to assist us because they're really wanting to help us do what we need to do. And I yield my time to the floor.
Okay, Lori, thank you so much. I want to thank you all of you for those great resources. And you're actually so good. You answered the 3rd question already. You guys are really good. And since we need to wrap up in about 10 minutes, I'm going to focus on the 2nd question, and maybe if we can keep our answers to about a minute each, roughly. So our 2nd question, and if we have time, we'll go to the 3rd question, which was about, the skills needed for effective self-advocacy. But the 2nd question, please share an example of when an individual or group of individuals requested a reasonable service and or accommodation that your organization did not offer, where you had to initiate a change in policy. So I know that might not apply to all of you, but if a couple of you have some short answers, let's get into it. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, Mary.
All right. So, yeah, this is interesting. I like to say that the state is like an open marriage. So you'll understand when I say this. So while I was at MRC and it was MCB, and it was during the height of the COVID and during hybrid, Teams was what everybody was using. And even though Commissioner DeCangelo advocated for Zoom because it was more user-friendly, but the state was using Zoom, so Teams, so that's what we used. It came up that it's not accessible. It wasn't accessible. And so at that time, we did have some super users at MCB. And what we did was get those super users. And thank you, Evan Silva. He actually pulled the group together with some individuals at MRC. And we were able to have a group who were able to learn Teams to be able to use it. But during that time, we also realized that we did not have a centralized place where we could do document remediation or any technical assistance on accessibility. And so we were able to come up with this group continued to grow. And a year later, we have an RFR went out. They scored the RFR and qualified an organization that MRC was going to use and uses for document remediation and accessibility for other things, but it's also open to MCB if that time ever comes, or some of the other agencies in EOHHS. So it really is something that started out of need and just grew, and now we have a solution for going forward. So
all right, kudos to you, Mary. Good story. Anyone else want to share a brief story about, change in policy?
I can share a recent one. With everything policies around COVID and university trying to quickly, initiate certain things, they did overlook a few things, I think, last year at Leslie. So in January, I believe it was last January, they, in order to re-enter or come back to campus for the spring semester, all employees needed to have had a COVID test done on campus, or done, not a rapid test, but it had to be the formal test done outside of campus. And so initially it had to be done on campus within 2 days of you coming back to campus, but not the day you come to campus, all these crazy things. Initially they opened that up to say you can have it done outside of campus, but it has to be done within a certain number of days before you first come to campus. And you have to go take care of it yourself. And so there was a response email that you would write to if you have any concerns or questions. And I personally, as before I was going to come back to teach in January, was concerned about that because I can't drive because I'm legally blind. I was being asked to go just drive to a center and take care of it. And so I at least did the research to see what was involved. And of course, at least for me, seeing like, all right, where's the local center and what are the instructions? And it was really comical actually to read things like, all right, first of all, you drive and pull into the parking spot, you show your driver's license, like all this kind of stuff. But needless to say, even if I, could work around the silliness of the instructions, I still need to get a ride there. And so I wrote back to them saying, would you be willing to accommodate, pay for my Uber ride or provide some sort of alternative testing or something that I could do to get back to campus? And then, the response I get in a lot of these things with advocacy is just a lot of like, oh, why don't you do this? It's not mostly it's ignorance, not knowing, why I'm asking for it, even though I'm trying to explain it carefully. They said, oh, well, just go ahead and take care of it. If you need time off of work, go ahead and take care of it. I brought it up to my boss, same thing. Just take the time off of work. I'm like, it's not the time, I need. So needless to say, I really pushed hard and I was getting nowhere. And it was really frustrating. And so this also answers to the third question is that it requires patience and self-advocacy. You have to be patient. Initially, you try the right path, the appropriate path, which was this one of politely asking, and it just didn't go anywhere. So then what I had to do is be very forceful and just say, write to the head of HR and the head of the Equity and Justice VP of the provost, and then also threaten to say that I was going to reach out to the Mass Commission for the Blind and let them know. And immediately, within seconds, they set up a meeting. They immediately said, you can do this rapid test, you can do this other thing, we'll mail it to you immediately, and we're going to change it. And I used that opportunity to explain to them the concerns I had, and that in their messaging, they should also include, if you have a concern due to disability or otherwise, or need accommodation, here's who you can contact. So they did change the policy, and they provided in their communications going forward with any of these policies, a contact person if someone needed accommodation or had concerns with the policy being able to meet the needs. And so it changed, but unfortunately, sometimes it has to be more of a forceful, like, I know my rights, you should, you have to do this kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, kudos.
That's the education part. Those are the two things for that last question: patience and knowledge.
That's right.
Gotta know, and
you
the
guys
support
have been-
groups help teach you from learning from others. So there's the
you guys have been doing great with this. Thank you. So on that question of, did you initiate a change of policy? We have a few more minutes. William or Lori, do you want to add anything, or anyone else?
I think mine was going to be a little bit too long. I just want to say thank you, Bill Porter. That was a really good story. I'm taking that one home with me.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Bill.
I agree. I just want to chime in and say the other part, which Bill did in his presentation, is having a sense of humor. I mean, sometimes we take ourselves way too seriously, and we just need to lighten up a bit. And sometimes that's the way to be much more effective and not struggle, So having a healthy sense of humor is so important.
Be reminded that, sorry to cut you off there, but be reminded that is important, because at that moment, that time, I will be honest, it was a very extremely stressful and intense and sleepless week, to be honest with you, because I've never had to self-advocate in that way before. But in hindsight, the humor is key, and having people, luckily have a lot of support system around me of people that I could vent my concerns, and they say it's going to be okay. Get perspective. So that's all.
Right. Well, I think we're out of time, but I want to thank each of you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom, to share your resources. share your stories. And I would just advocate, let's, as Stuart was referring to earlier, it's about relationships. So we need to continue this. But Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you, I believe.
I'll take it from here. Thanks, Harry. Definitely appreciate it. Jay Rufo, back with you. What a fantastic discussion. There's certainly a lot that I learned there that I'm going to put to good use. And I'm sure that everyone else would agree. So huge thanks to our moderator, Harry Duchesne, Executive Director of Audio Journal in Worcester, and of course to each and every one of our panelists today. Up next, to keep things going, we're going to hear from 4 separate presenters that will provide additional testimonials recognizing the power of self-advocacy. Our first presenter is Jason Allen. Jason, who's legally blind, is an account manager with New England Blind and Low Vision. Since his diagnosis over 10 years ago, Jason has successfully navigated college and been ratified in the Commonwealth as a certified peer specialist. He feels as though his life experience and training have equipped him with the knowledge and resources necessary to empower those in the blind and low vision communities facing everyday challenges. Jason, thanks for joining us today, and I'll turn things over to you.
And Jason, you're still muted.
That any better?
Yes, perfect.
Right on. Okay. I'm a little nervous. So thank you everybody who came before me for taking the time today to participate in this gathering. I think that the theme of self-advocacy is very important, and I've had to learn about it a lot myself over the last few years, or probably decade. I'm just going to start off by saying that I'm legally blind. I have Stargardt's disease. And for those who aren't familiar with it, Stargardt's is a disease of the retinas in the eyes where the cells on the retinas just die off and fall off. It's a progressive disease, and usually it affects people when they're teenagers. For me, it happened when I was in my early 40s. So for me to see things, I've got to use different parts of my vision. And that was a big learning experience for me. I have to sort of piece together images and things like that. How it happened was I was at work one day and I was working on the computer, and I couldn't piece everything together. I figured I needed a new prescription for my eyes. Went to see an optometrist, and after taking a look inside my eyes, the optometrist said to me, "There's nothing I can do for you. I'm not going to be able to help you. You have to go see somebody else." And he handed me a card, and that card was for a retinal specialist. I went to go see this retinal specialist, and they gave me a diagnosis that day, or what they felt was a diagnosis, and explained to me what Stargardt's disease was, and explained that it's progressive, and once it begins, there's no going back. There's no cure for it. It's just gonna be part of my life, and I have to learn to deal with it. But he wasn't comfortable with him giving the assessment. He decided he wanted me to go out to Boston to see Dr. Duker out at Tufts and meet with his team and see what they had to say. Dr. Duker's team, and I had a friend with me. They were a nurse. I just knew this was not going to be good news. So Dr. Duker and I met with his team. My friend was with me. He was a nurse. And I was hoping he could interpret some of this stuff for me. And at the end of the meeting, his team came to me with their evaluation, and then he came to me with his, and that was that I do have Stargardt's disease, that it's not something that there's a cure for or treatment for. And he was very blunt about this when he gave me this news. He straight up said, you know, you can get another opinion if you want, if it'll make you feel better. But you're going to get the same diagnosis, and you can spend the rest of your life chasing around all these different ideas to get this cured, but it's probably not going to work. And he was right. So I get home, I'm trying to figure out how to deal with work. It's just a struggle. It's getting worse. I can see less and less. And I'm in the construction industry. I have a job I worked a really long time to get. You know, I had 9 years under my belt there when this all started to really fall apart on me. I was a sales manager working my way up to be a VP for the company. And I can't even get to work. You know, I'm driving around and I'm driving home one night and I come to a section of road. I had kind of gotten into this habit where somebody gave me the hint, hang on to taillights. And so I would sort of focus on the taillights around me, and that would sort of keep me where I had to be. And one night the taillights disappeared. And everything disappeared. Like, so I didn't know what to do. You know, I got my hazards on, I got over the side of the road. I found a rumble strip. Thankfully, I was most of the way home. My office was 30 miles away, and I was able to follow that rumble strip off the exit and get myself home. When I got home, I got out of the car, I walked into the house, my hands are shaking. I'm crying because I knew that this was really going to be when things went into high gear. So I get through that night and I get to work and explain to the people I'm working with, I have this situation and I'm going to have to surrender my license. I'm going to just say for a second, hindsight is 20/20, as they say. Had I been a better advocate for myself in those days, it might have been a different scenario, but it didn't play out that way. What ended up happening was they brought in a guy who I trained, who was going to be my replacement. And yeah, I trained him and then I got laid off. And then I never got called back again. While this is going on, I had been in touch with MCB and they were helping me out with technology and things like this. And this is before COVID. So I'm trying to figure out the technology. I got, you know, Bill was really doing an awesome job of setting me up, but now I don't have a job. Now I got to find a job and I'm just getting a handle on the technology and I'm not getting anywhere fast. And I'm burning through everything I had for savings and retirement. Eventually, I start getting a handle on the technology, but then COVID comes and it just really, so MCB offered to put me through school, which really kind of saved me in a lot of ways. Some of the speakers before us have talked about things like depression or trying to deal with blindness when we get it. And I can tell you firsthand, the depression is real and it's dangerous. People go through a lot of stages. If they're born blind, they have to accept that. If somebody develops blindness, they also have to accept that, but it's a lot different because our lives change drastically. And with the advice of MCB and going to school, it gave me something to keep my mind busy, but then I got some good grades and kept following it. And eventually, there was a suggestion from somebody at MCB, Carrie actually, suggested that I might want to look into being a peer counselor, a certified peer specialist rather. Let me just say, going to school was a real exercise in self-advocacy. Every step of the way, I had to learn what my rights were and then educate the disability department about it. And then with their help, try to work with my professors to get assignments in a fashion that was accessible with a screen reader. This was all done online. I did the whole thing online and made it through, but it was not without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And the whole time I'm doing this, I'm saying to myself, there's got to be a way that I can do something to the system that'll make this easier for the next person coming along. So we fast forward to Carrie talking about the Certified Peer Specialist program, and I go into that, and it took me 6 months to pin these people down to taking me into the class. And then I had to do a lot of self-advocacy then, because they were even less prepared to deal with somebody who had low vision or blindness, or who was dealing with that type of a disability. So they adapted their program. That took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but I got through it. And now I have, the certification from the state of Massachusetts. While all this was going on, I was staying in touch with MCB, and this is where it really gets interesting, where MCB really shines. I get through this program, I'm out of money, and an opportunity for an internship comes up with MCB. So I take the internship. Then I met somebody who a lot of us already know, and that's Thelma Williams. And Thelma and we just connected, and I had a fantastic time working with her. I got to meet a lot of people in a lot of different parts of the district and parts of the state. I was involved with a lot of committee meetings. I learned a lot about MCB. But then one day Thelma reached out to me and she said, somebody in my circle of friends is looking for somebody who can do what you can do, or circle of acquaintances, I should say. And she forwarded me a job description. Now, I had been a sales manager many times in my past, and this was for a sales and administrative assistant job, but I needed something, and I'm at the house. So we decided I'm going to go for it. And we worked over the weekend and at night, and we got together all the materials we needed. She helped me with my resume, and I wrote a cover letter, and we reached out to Scott, and I was granted a meeting, and I met with Scott and Aaron, and he was the owner, and Aaron's his ops manager, and I started to explain a little bit about myself and areas I thought I could help the company, but challenges I might have because of my vision. And right in the middle of that whole conversation, Scott pivoted. And he ended up proposing that I take a job with him that really wasn't created yet, but it would allow me to work from home. It would allow me to do part-time hours. Now, I live in the western part of the state. The company I work for is in the middle of the state. I've only been there for training. And it's just been an amazing experience. That self-advocacy I began to learn by going to school and learning to lean on the people around me was starting to pay off. And I ended up with a job that I really like, because I'm helping people who are in a situation like me, who have low or no vision, and we provide hope. We listen to the people around us and we help them. And that's really all I wanted to do. That's why I got into the Certified Peer Specialist program. And eventually I'm going to be pursuing that as well. But right now, I'm in a very good situation. I'm not waking up every day dreading or wondering how I'm going to get a job or questioning myself. I'm on a path now, and it's a very bright path, and I'm very grateful. And self-advocacy had everything to do with it. Because if I hadn't learned to speak up, I probably never would have made it through those college classes. Probably never would have made it through the CPS program. And I certainly wouldn't have reached out and tried to get myself a job, still trying to get a hold of all this stuff. So if I could just give you one message, that would be stay strong, self-advocate. It will work in the end. And just trust yourself, believe in yourself, because we all have the power to lift ourselves up. We just have to find a path to do it. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much for being with us, Jason, and sharing your story. We greatly appreciate that. Just to keep things moving here, we have another testimonial, and this one is from Carrie Nee. She's a mom of 2 boys who have special needs. She's an attorney and a member of the Hingham School Committee. She has long been a fierce advocate for students who have not taken the traditional journey through the school system.
Hi, my name is Carrie D, and my husband Glenn and I have 2 boys, ages 18 and 15. They both have autism, and our younger son Liam is also legally blind. When you're a parent of children with disabilities, you're constantly advocating, but one occasion that comes to mind was when our younger son Liam was in 3rd grade. Even though he's legally blind, Liam is a print reader, and he requires enlarged materials, including textbooks, to access the curriculum. So at the end of second grade, Liam's team got together with the third grade teachers in our public school to look at the materials and figure out what needed to be ordered for him for the following year. They compiled a list, they sent it to central office, and it was just never ordered until September of the following year. So Liam began third grade reading off of enlarged black and white photocopies of the colorful textbooks used by his typical peers. Reading was challenging for Liam to begin with, but requiring him to do it on photocopies which had black text on top of shades of gray made it nearly impossible. To make matters worse, it took 5 weeks to put the books together. So Liam spent the first 5 to 6 weeks of third grade, the year when students stop learning to read and start reading to learn, unable to access the reading curriculum. His teachers were so apologetic, and we knew they had done everything they were supposed to do. So I reached out to the special education director and the superintendent at the time to find out what happened and to make sure it didn't happen again. The response I received was that they were short-staffed at central office and they did their best to provide good customer service, but that wasn't always possible. Customer service. That was how our district leadership viewed a visually impaired student's ability to access the curriculum in his school. So I filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights, or OCR. We knew it wouldn't make Liam's books come any faster, but we wanted to make sure the district was accountable, that it never happened again, and to Liam or to any other student. The district and OCR ultimately resolved the complaint, and they put procedures in place to make sure that his books were ordered in a timely manner. More importantly, it required the district to put together an effective communication policy, which would require that communication with all students with hearing, vision, and speech disabilities was as effective as communication with their typical peers. It required the district to put together a tracking system to make sure that students with hearing, vision, and speech disabilities received the service and the communication they needed. And it required the district to train the relevant staff on the effective communication policy. This experience was also one of the reasons that I later ran for and was elected to our district school committee, because it's vital that we have school leaders who understand that meaningful inclusion will only happen when all students have access to materials and opportunities like their typical peers. That's not customer service, that's effective, meaningful education.
And thank you so much for Carrie for submitting that testimonial. And from one Carrie to the next Carrie, we have Carrie Svensson joining us, and she is a clinical case manager with Behavioral Health Network. She is a strong advocate in the community and belongs to organizations that support rights for people with disabilities. Carrie, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I wanted to specifically bring up a situation where I self-advocated during my undergraduate degree back in West Virginia, where I did my undergrad at Concord University. When I started, I knew from the program guidelines I would have to take 2 math courses, specifically college algebra and college statistics. I had several concerns with doing that in a normal classroom environment. First of all, as we all know, math is tough, especially when you have a visual impairment. It can be very hard to follow along in class, even in school as a kid. So college is it even more difficult and easy to fall behind if you don't understand the material. And then statistics is very visual, and it can be hard at times to accommodate. And a lot of times, you know, the software and the graphics that are used aren't very accessible with screen reading software. So after thinking about how I was going to survive my 2 math classes and talking to other professors, it was decided that I would advocate for an independent study. For those who do not know, independent studies are typically used for special topics or advanced coursework, and it's mostly the individual doing the work, and you might meet with a professor to discuss the work. So that's the traditional independent study format. I was able to go to the head of the math department, explain my concerns and what I was hoping. And his response was, if you know a professor that's willing to do it, I'll sign off on it. It's totally logical to me. So many of my peers who had been at Concord for a while, as well as professors, advised that I reach out to Dr. Hill. And I went to his office, introduced myself, explained to him what I was hoping to do. And his response was, this is a challenge for me. I'm all for it. So we started off with college algebra, and he was very willing and accommodating to learn. We adapted things along the way. He helped me refresh on things that I just didn't grasp in high school because of the teaching style and not having the appropriate support and accommodations. Then he made me feel like I wasn't stupid, because I know a lot of us feel that way with math, especially when we struggle with higher level math concepts. And it was such a success that I asked him if he would be willing to do statistics with me again, and he also agreed. So I really want to encourage people, when you think you're going to struggle with course material, consider an independent study. If you have professors and higher level, academic support at the university to help push that through, it is a reasonable accommodation. I also did the same thing with taking art. I did an independent study with a professor that knew how to accommodate art for the visually impaired. And the result of that is we spent that whole class actually preparing and hosting a tactile art show that was held back in 2015. And that was also a success. So you never know what can come out of these opportunities, and working closely with professors, it gives them knowledge along with you, because they get to learn a whole new set of skills, a new way of teaching, and maybe they can transfer that into their classes later on. And even if someone comes in and wants to do the normal format, who maybe is a high partial, for example, the professors still will have that visual awareness and be able to meet those accommodations. So I wanted to share that with people. I know a lot of students may not even know that that is an option for a reasonable accommodation. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks so much for sharing, Carrie, and all of our other participants today who have shared their testimonials. We have one video left for the testimonials, and that is a video of Maya and Layla, who are 9-year-old twins and were born blind. They have been enthusiastic about orientation and mobility instruction since they were 3 years old, when they began training with the long white cane. Maya and Layla are learning to travel independently in their school, home, and community environments. They both have a love of music, horseback riding, swimming, and school, and they're always up for an adventure.
My name is Maya. My name is Layla. We are 9 years old. My white cane makes me feel safe. My white cane makes me feel happy. We both use a cane made of carbon fiber with a metal tip. I hold my cane in front of me and tap it side to side to protect my body. My cane can find obstacles, curbs, and steps in my path. I can find things by listening to my metal tip tap on the ground. I love my cane because it makes me independent.
Great, thank you so much. At this time, we want to recognize one of MCB's Regional Advisory Council members. So Elizabeth Cannon has been an active RAC member in our Northeast region for the past 15 years. She is also the executive director at the Lowell Association for the Blind. She has led the organization for more than 20 years. In 2012, Elizabeth hosted at Lab the only in-person MCB open house. She is president of the Nonprofit Alliance of Greater Lowell and a member of the Massachusetts Nonprofit Network Board of Directors. Here to help us honor Elizabeth is Honorable Mayor Sakari Chow of Lowell. Mayor Chow is the first Cambodian American mayor in the United States. A Lowell City Councilor, he also took his place as the city's first mayor of color this past January when he was unanimously elected by his 10 colleagues on the council. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us this morning. I see that he is in the room, so I just want to give 1 second because sometimes there's technical difficulties.
Okay, wonderful. I am on video now, and thank you, Ali, for your kind introduction. I also want to thank the Commissioner David Marcangelo for all your work with the Disabilities Commission, and also Director of Communication Mike Sacconi for hosting and inviting all the participants to participate. Today, I listened to all the participants' personal stories, and I want to thank you for sharing those personal stories. It's very, very heartfelt, and I just love hearing the story of your advocacy for yourself. It shows a lot of courage, a lot of independence, and a lot of bravery. And I too myself have family members who have learning disabilities and autism, and everyone know but not really aware or educated that the people with disabilities, all their struggles, and many families, sooner or later, we will have members of our families will have disabilities, if not already, and we have friends who have disabilities. But the reason I say that we're not aware of it so much, we don't have that education enough out there. We don't have enough stories being put up front to the public. So event like today really bring out how important it is for all of us to be aware of people, of friends and families with disabilities and the struggle, and all the things that we need to do more to make sure that we serve people, friends and constituents with disabilities. With that said, I'm really honored to present a citation to Miss Elizabeth Cannon, and she has done a great work for Lowell. So on behalf of the entire City Council, I will read the citation for Elizabeth Cannon. Official citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Elizabeth Cannon, Lowell Association for the Blind. Elizabeth has over 20 years of nonprofit management experience. She is a graduate of UMass Lowell with a Bachelor of Science in Administration of Law and Justice, and Franklin Pierce University with a Master's in Business Administration. Before coming to Lowell Association for the Blind, she worked at Community Teamwork Incorporated and Merrimack Valley Catholic Charities. Elizabeth is the Vice President of the Nonprofit Alliance of Greater Lowell and a member of the Regional Advisory Committee for the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Sakari Chow, on behalf of the entire City Council, hereby offer our gratitude and best wishes to Elizabeth Cannon for her selfless community service to Lowell, Massachusetts. Given the second day of December 2022, signed by myself and the entire City Council. So congratulations to Elizabeth, and truly thank you for all you do for our community. Thank you so much.
Very well said, Mr. Mayor, and thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership and being here today with our stakeholder community. We know how much Elizabeth means to not only Lowell, but the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So thank you again. So in addition to your citation, Governor Baker has made sure that we want to recognize Elizabeth on the state level. So he's issued a gubernatorial citation recognizing Elizabeth for all of her years of dedicated service to the Merrimack Valley and supporting people who are blind and visually impaired. And I will read the citation. The citation reads in part, on behalf of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I am pleased to confer upon you this governor's citation in recognition, in recognition of your 21 years of tireless efforts supporting individuals who are blind and visually impaired as executive director of the Lowell Association for the Blind and a dedicated member of our Northeast Regional Advisory Council for the past 15 years at the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind. And for me personally, Elizabeth, I'm very fond of you personally. You're just such a quality person. You exemplified the very best in public service. We're gonna miss you. We hope you're not going too far. You're so valuable to our community. I appreciate you. You've got tremendous integrity, and I aspire to have half the public service that you do. So thank you so much, Elizabeth.
My goodness. Thank you so much, Mayor Chow, and thank you, Commissioner Doc Angelo, for the wonderful certificates and recognition. You know, I have to thank all of the staff at MCB who are so wonderful to work with, and my counterpart, Thelma Williams, who has made, and her staff of Region 3, just the best region, we say all the time, in Massachusetts to work for folks. I have to thank my staff for the great job that they do, and my board of directors that allows us to continue the work as Lab begins its 100th year in Lowell, coming up in 2023. So I thank you for this recognition, very heartfelt and humbled. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And Elizabeth, if I could say one more thing, I would like to invite you, if you are available, to come to the City Council meeting on Tuesday to recognize you as well. It will be my honor on Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. if you are available.
I would love to. Thank you, Mayor Chow.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is Allie again. Elizabeth, congratulations as somebody who started working at Lab, and I've seen your dedication firsthand. So congratulations. This is well deserved. All right, I think we're gonna head over for closing remarks.
Excellent. At this time, congratulations, Elizabeth. I will just echo everything that everyone has said. You are a terrific person and an amazing community advocate, and you know, the city of Lowell and Merrimack Valley is blessed to have you. At this time, I will turn things over to Amy Doherty, who is a vocational rehabilitation counselor in the Northeast region.
Thank you, Mike. So on behalf of the Planning Committee and MCB, we'd like to congratulate Elizabeth on this well-deserved honor. Thank all of today's presenters for sharing your stories, your talents, your insights. It's been wonderful to hear, and you are all fabulous self-advocates. We also want to thank each one of you for joining us today at MCB's 3rd annual virtual open house, Self-Advocacy, Stay Strong. If you have additional questions or would like to get in touch with our team, please call us at 1-800-392-6450 or email us at mcbinfo@mass.gov. We are planning many exciting events for 2023, and you can sign up to receive emails from MCB to learn more about these events by going to our website, www.mass.gov/MCB. The recording of today's event will also be posted on the website. And we thank you again for joining us, and we wish you and your families a safe, healthy, and happy holiday season.
And feel free to play us off, Claude, if you would like.
All right, thanks very much, guys. Great to play for you. I'm playing Vince Guaraldi piece. Christmas time is here, then I'll go on to Sleigh Ride.
Great job, Claude. Have a great day, everybody.
I guess it's all done. Are we out?
No, you
Great
can
job,
still,
Claude.
you can keep going. We still have
Keep going,
another
Claude.
minute or two.
You can
All
keep
right,
going. I just wanted to say thanks to everybody. Great job, everybody.
Little sleigh ride.
Very nice.
All right, thank you. All right, so it went well, I thought.
Thank you,
Yes,
Claude.
Claude.
Beautiful.
Great job.
Thank you so much. Appreciate all your time. Wonderful and testimonials here and great stuff going on.
Great
Good to
event. A lot of nice work here. We got a great community.
All right. Fantastic.
All
All right.
You'll join us next year. Thank you, Thelma.
I certainly can do that. We'll see what happens for next year. I'd be glad to.
Thank you.
All right, Thelma. Really nice to see you guys.
You
Yeah.
too.
Thank you, Claude.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Claude.
Take
Thanks.
care, everybody.
See you later. Happy holidays to you guys.
Happy holidays.